We are going to write an equation based off of a transformed sine graph. When you're writing an equation, I would recommend two things to do on the graph. One, I would trace the midline, and two, I would draw a box around one complete cycle. I think tracing the midline helps with finding the amplitude and vertical shifting, and then I think drawing a box around the cycle helps with your phase shifting and finding the length of a period. So I'm going to start by tracing the midline. Remember, the midline cuts the graph in half horizontally, and then I'm going to draw a box around one complete cycle, assuming that we're starting right here. Now we can see that the amplitude is 2. It goes 2 up from the midline or 2 down from the midline. And it's not reflected at all, so it's going to be a positive 2. Then we need the b value. Remember, b is the number of cycles in 2 pi for sine and cosine. So if we look down, we see that it ends at 90 degrees. If it starts at 0, ends at 90, which means that one period is pi over 2. So think about how many cycles would be in 2 pi. Well, that's going to be 4, because 1 goes to pi over 2, then the second cycle goes to pi, and then the third goes to 3 pi over 2, and then the fourth goes to 2 pi. So it's going to be 4. Another way of doing it, you can always do for sine and cosine 2 pi over b to find the period. And this time we're given the period trying to find b. The period is pi over 2. And we can solve for b by cross multiplying. So that would be pi b equals 4 pi. We just cross multiplied. And we're solving for b. It's being multiplied by pi, so we want to divide by both sides by pi. And that'll be b equals 4 pi over pi, which is 4. Then we have phase shifting. It's still starting at 0, so it didn't shift at all. So I'm going to close the parenthesis. If it did have a phase shift, let's say it was right pi, then it would be, you would need another set of parentheses, x. If it went right, you would go negative pi and then close your parentheses. But this one didn't have any phase shifting, so we're just gonna write our x and then close the parenthesis. And then because we trace the midline is usually at 0 for sine and cosine, but now it's shifted up 3. So that's gonna be plus 3. And this will be our new equation.